to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, do make it a point to rate, like, comment. Both apps are free. So you know what? Make sure you're getting what you're paying for out of that. Leave a thought, leave a comment, and you know what? Leave a like as well if you can. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and also our TVs 2016 forward. So hope you guys are doing well out there. This, as always, is a sports den where a bunch of guys get together, complain about how much we're suffering in sports, talk about the hope of the future, and really anything going on that's topical. Today, we're running a little bit of a different direction. I've been aching to do something like this for a while now, but we are going to be talking about the 5, let's call it most influential, emotionally, most emotional sports events that we have seen firsthand, either on TV or live. I've got my 5 plus 1 honorable mention. I know you guys got some stuff in there too. So starting this off, Obie, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Happy Mardi Gras, everybody.
Yes. So I don't want to ask how you got those beads.
I earned them the hard way.
Yeah. And that's why you're not allowed back in Louisiana. Anyway, Jared, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Yourself? How about you?
Yeah, no complaints. No complaints. It's 51 degrees here in Jersey, which is really nice. Tomorrow it's going to be 33, so it's back to normal again. But for the moment, it's nice. Stats, how you doing, bro?
Good. Mardi Gras is actually on my bucket list. There's a funny story about it. In pre-Hurricane Katrina, me and a couple of my best friends I was like, let's go to Mardi Gras this year. Let's plan a trip. And my buddy John, who's one of my best friends since high school, was like, relax. New Orleans ain't going anywhere. Mardi Gras will be there forever. And sure enough, like Hurricane Katrina hits, I show up at his house and I'm like, I swear to God, if there's no more Mardi Gras, I'm taking this out on you. And like, it's still on my bucket list though. And I've worked with a couple people in the television and film industry from Louisiana and New Orleans. And everyone I know who's been there loves it. I was like, I want to go down especially for the food. Like I hear it's amazing. Catch a Saints game while I'm there or a Pelicans game. And,
LSU. Well, yeah, Johnny Abear's from down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know Anna Vett, assistant director I worked with, our script supervisor from season 3 of Sneaky Pete. And everyone I've met who's from there is like awesome peoples too. Yeah, so I love it.
It's so chill down there.
Wonderful city. Never been to Mardi Gras itself, but have been trying to convince my wife that we could move down there. And especially now that everyone works from home, I'm like, baby, we can get a place. Yeah. It's a beautiful place to go. Food is outstanding.
Nice. Making a plan. We're going to head down there, make it a business trip so we can write it off on taxes.
Yes.
So, all right, Eduardo, if you're listening to this, let's see what we can make happen. All right. So, like I said, we've got our top 5 and possible honorable mentions about what we've experienced firsthand in sports, what it meant to us. Certain events have obviously some impact different from one another. Some of them may overlap, some of them may not. But it's up to you who wants to start this off. I do have an honorable mention, so I want to start there first, if any of you guys have one.
Well, I have a couple, but do we want to do like each do our 5th, then our 4th?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make sure.
And then work our way down.
All right, I'll lead it off. Well, we can do honorable mention. I'll lead it off since I kind of spawned the idea like 3 weeks ago. But
that's cool.
So my honorable mention parlays right into my number 5. My honorable mention was 86 Game 6 Mets Red Sox.
That's an honorable mention. Okay.
Yeah, only because I was so young that I remember it. I remember vividly. Like I had actually woke up and walked downstairs. My parents were watching the game, and I saw like the whole 9th inning. And I got to put it on the list too because if it wasn't for Gary Carter, there's no rally. Like the 2-out single, and then the whole story with like when you find out later, like Kevin Mitchell was in the clubhouse with no pants on drinking a beer and somebody ran in to get him, was like, yo, Skip wants you to pinch hit. And he runs out, he gets a hit, and the rest is history. The wild pitch, Mookie hits the dribbler down the line. So that was my honorable mention because my number 5, and I swear I'm not pandering to our Canadian fans on this, it is Touch 'em All Joe.
Okay.
The 1990, I wrote it down. I want to make sure I get the year right. 1993 World Series, Game 5, Joe Carter hits the walk-off home run to win the World Series for the Blue Jays. It was their second World Series championship. But for me, as a kid, like you're always on the playground or in the backyard playing stickball, like bottom of the 9th, World Series on the line. And we had never seen it. It only happened once before. I think it was in 1960. Bill Mazeroski hit a walk-off for the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Yankees. And they weren't, I think the game was tied at that point. Carter was the first one who hit it while they were trailing. So for me, that was the moment of like, wow, this really can happen. Like, this isn't just like a fantasy or a pipe dream. So that was my number 5. I'll always remember it because I'm like, it's not just a pipe dream anymore. I've seen it happen.
All right. Jared, how about you, sir?
Jay, you're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute, bro.
Well, yeah. To start off with number 5 on my end, I'm gonna probably go with Michael Jordan's The Shot.
Okay.
Against Utah.
Mhm.
I was little, I didn't understand basketball at that time. Just knew he was really good. Didn't know Karl Malone was really that good. The only person I really knew was Michael Jordan was that good because my family were big Michael Jordan fans, and obviously I didn't know anything about it. But to hit that shot in the last, like, well, I don't remember how many seconds it was, but in front of Byron Russell, I think that was probably one of the more memorable moments of me knowing sports from a little kid. So that's my number 5. But
Nice.
it gets a little bit better afterwards.
Well, what's funny about that is they called a timeout right before that shot took place. Do you know what they happened to talk about in that timeout?
No, I don't remember.
It was nothing on the it was nothing on the court. It's where they were going to go to dinner after they won. The mindset they had was so strong. It's like, where do you want to go to eat? Well, we can go here, we can go here, we can do this kind of stuff. They implanted in their head, not how we're going to play this, but where are we going to go eat to celebrate this? And you know what? Look at obviously what happened. So yeah, solid number 5 there. Obi?
You know what people kind of forget with that one too is that Jordan had the steal.
Yeah.
On the other end, he stripped Malone, and then I completely forgot about that till like saved the Last Dance, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot he stole the ball too. So he just carried it up the court and was like, yeah, we're going out to dinner here.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. 4, 5, and 6 I couldn't separate.
Okay.
So I'm doing 6, and then with everyone I came up with like 10 to kind of figure it out while I was going. So everyone I do, I have a corresponding another good moment. I won't discuss it, just mention it. So number 6 for me, January 2nd, 1994. Emmitt Smith dislocates his shoulder against the New York Giants. I was watching that at a Giants bar. I'm a Cowboy fan, or was at the time. The corresponding one is I was watching Mark Messier takes care of the Devils at the same bar, and that was a split bar. At the same bar was split. So that's why I mentioned that there. But for those who don't remember, Emmitt Smith at the very end of the first half gets his shoulder dislocated, and then for the second half catches another 6 passes, rushes I think another 12 times for 70-something yards. Every time he touches the ball, he gets up holding his arm, walking off the field, gets right back at it. And the Giants defense, that was one of their great defenses, and they just kept smacking him, and he kept getting back up. It was unbelievable. And at the end of that game, everybody in that bar just came up to me and hugged me. It was just because it was such a show. The Giants fans was like, damn, what a game.
Nice.
That was a great moment. So I jammed number 6 in. I apologize for taking an extra one. Don't know if you want to move to 5 or keep waiting.
No, keep going. Don't worry, because I have like a couple honorable mentions too. So yeah, feel free to toss them out there, man. It's like we all have different experiences. Like I honestly, I thankfully did not watch Game 6 when Messier predicted the win, so I did not have to worry about putting that on my list.
Yeah,
it's on Scott's list. Look at him.
We're going to get to that one in due time, not that one specifically, but okay. First, I'm starting with my honorable mention and my number 5, which none of you guys have talked about yet. My first honorable mention is completely out of left field. It was 1987. I was 12 years old, being, shall we say, unathletically inclined. I mean, both, you guys have played, sports in high school and everything like that. I was the kid in Little League platoon right field. Basically the kid that you put out there when the kid's got no damn talent whatsoever. But by some dumb miracle, somehow, some way, I caught a ball. And what was bizarre about it was the fact that not only was I in shock about catching the ball, but I ended up actually being able to throw out a kid. I'm not going to mention the kid, but Obi, you would know him. I'm going to mention one person in this case, but I threw out the one kid that was actually fatter than I was in Little League. But in this case, I threw the ball on a 12-year-old, basically rope, which basically no arm strength whatsoever, to Steve Pataki. Steve Pataki is somebody you graduated high school with.
Absolutely.
So Steve, then in turn threw to the catcher, whoever that happened to be, and took and tagged out this kid on a sac fly, which was amazing because A, I caught the ball, and B, I made, it was helped in a double play, which is pretty much the best I ever did in 3 years of Little League. So I'm counting that as my honorable mention, which again sets that bar pretty damn low. My number 5, though, and you guys, like I said, never actually mentioned this. Piazza 2000 home run.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say too.
It's funny because I was there for that game.
Oh,
So
wow.
Whenever they replay it, you can actually see my shirt because the way that the ball was hit in such a way, it was a line drive down the left field line. So I remember looking straight down and being like, okay, this ball is a double. I didn't know anything beyond that. But you can actually see, a little bit of my silhouette in like the upper tier first row there. But I had boldly predicted when they were down at that point, I think it was 9-1. Mets are not coming back. This game is a joke. It's out of hand. And of course they rifle off, 10 runs in the inning, win the game. But I happened to be there for that and just watch the crowd just go absolutely out of their mind, because little by little, it was just a slow growth, bases loaded walk. It just was a slow climb back that culminated in, easily one of the best players the Mets ever had, capping it off. And 2000 was just, that was a special year for that team that they deserved to do better in the World Series than they did. But at least at that moment, they beat the Braves. That was a huge win right there.
What's funny? I think I was at that game too. I can't remember. Like, I try to go back and find stuff. My friend's dad was a cop. He had gotten tickets. We went to a game against the Braves where they were getting blown out. We started going back to the 7 train and they started scoring runs. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're better. They're doing better that we're leaving. And then we're on the train and somebody's got the radio on. I'm like, dude, they tied the game. They won. They took the lead. And I was like, because I always get that game and the other, the post 9/11 game mixed up, because I know I was not at the post 9/11 game, but I think I was at that exact game that you're talking about as well. I was in the bleachers in left field.
Mike Hampton was on the hill for that one, if that helps you at all.
Yes, I think I was at that game as well.
He got killed. He got slashed early on. He got crushed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was okay. So that would have been funny. Actually, you and I could have been in the same vicinity at that point, because if you were in the left field stands, so was I.
Yeah, I was in left field bleachers right by the picnic area.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really weird that you and I were at that same game. Yeah. Easy. My number 5. All right. Rob, how about your number 4?
Number 4. Where's the exact date I can give to you? June 10th, 2000. Scott, do you know what that was?
It might be on my list as well.
Double overtime, Jason Arnott, the New Jersey Devils, what they called second heaven, their second cup.
Yes.
And kind of same thing as with like the Joe Carter one. Mm-hmm. When do you get to see your team win it all in overtime in like dramatic fashion? And I actually just went back this morning to watch the video. Like, Peter Sikora had gotten knocked out, left the game on a stretcher. It was one, and the whole series, aside from like what was known as the NyQuil game with Ed Belfour, the first game where he said he was hopped up on NyQuil and gave up like 6 goals. It was a close series the whole time. The game 5, I think, went into like double or triple overtime, was like 1-0 or something. 1-0, yeah. And then I remember watching this at my friend's house when Stevens kept the puck in, sent it to the corner. Elias throws that blind backhand pass, and apparently everyone in the room was like, dude, you were off the couch in the air. Like, as soon as I saw Jason Arnott kind of streaking into the middle, I was like, shoot, and just went completely nuts, like where the whole house is going crazy. So that was my number 4, was the Devil.
Top right shoulder of Belfour.
Yeah, and the thing for us too is that the first cup we won during the shortened season. So everybody's like, oh, it doesn't count. It was a shortened season. And then this was their first legitimate cup. No more asterisks, no more nothing. It was said and done. And
second time in 6 years also showed something there too, that maybe there is more to it than just a lucky team there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about that one a little bit more from a different vantage point, but that's on my list as well. So, Jared, number 4 for you, sir.
I'm going to say sometime in September 2016. I don't remember the exact day. I want to say it was like the 24th, 25th, or 26th. Mets, Braves. Mets, Marlins after Jose Fernandez's death with D. Gordon hit the home run. That's my number 4.
Yeah, okay.
Because I remember I was at MLB working, and my coworker, we was placing bets on like what's going to happen, like at bat, like each at bat, strikeout, single, double, whatever the case may be. It's like, he's about to hit a double. That's exactly what I said. He's about to hit a double. Not going to hit no home run. And my coworker was like, I think he's going to hit a single. I was like, nah, he's going to hit a double. And he's probably going to still go to third. And all of a sudden, he hits that home run and gets emotional right afterwards. And he hit it. That was the hardest hit home run he ever hit in his career. I still think it's probably still the hardest hit, if I'm still correct. I haven't paid attention since. But he got very emotional after that. He pointed up to the sky and said it was pretty much Jose Fernandez.
Nice. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We got a couple on here that Scott's like, I wish I didn't remember that.
My next one is going to be that. And actually, I'm going to probably take one more as an honorable mention as it comes to my mind right now. So, Obie, we're over to you, sir.
All right. So remember, I'm still off one because I'm only on number 5.
Okay, we'll make it up.
That's all right. I just want to make sure we get to my number 1, if not this week next. May 31st, 2007, the LeBron James 48 special.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pairing that just because that was the beginning of the guy's career with Cal Ripken does not play. He sits his game out. That was a strange event. But it's definitely number 5, the LeBron James game. At that point in my life, I was finally really into basketball. Actually, I have another basketball one actually higher than this. But at this point, I was really watching basketball all the time. And if you don't recall, he scored the last 25 points for his Cleveland Cavaliers, 9 in each of the 2 overtimes. And they were tied 2-2 with Detroit at that point. And when that game was over, I knew that Kobe and the big fundamental only had so much time, but this was going to be the guy. Like the talk, there's always who's it going to be. Carmelo Anthony was out there. Dwayne Wade would have a championship after this, but the guy I knew was going to be the guy was LeBron after what he did. And anytime someone go, oh, he can't close, or oh, he's a choker, oh, he makes the pass, I'm like, you got to remember that Detroit game when he had to do it and really had nobody else on the team. He did it. Went to work the next day, and at that point in time, there was 2 women who I used to love talking basketball with. They as soon as we saw each other, they were just like high fives around. LeBron's for real. LeBron is here. It was just an unbelievable performance by a guy who has a lot and often gets forgotten.
Awesome. That's awesome. All right, so let me go. Oh, God.
You do your other one too. This way you can catch up to your next one now.
So my other one, I'm sure, has got to be on somebody else's list. October 15th, 1988.
No, it's not on mine.
No,
but I know what you're talking about.
Home run.
I was too distraught as a Mets fan back then.
It was rough as a Mets fan. I was at a Mets fans party, if you will, and when Eckersley gets in the game. Before Kirk Gibson gets in the game, one of the guys goes, Eck gets the save. He was a Met fan first, but a big Dave Stewart fan. Eck gets the save. The series is over. These guys are going to be so fired up. Oakland's going to go straight through them. And I go, the only thing that can give that kind of momentum in baseball is if at some point this inning they pinch hit and Gibson hits a home run. Not even, a winning home run, just hits a home run. Well, lo and behold, he did. And I said, all right, now and I was like, I'm right. The route's on. This is over. This is done. There's no way. This is LA series. And as a disgruntled and sad Met fan, at least I had it right. That was a good party that we had. Not that kind of party. We were still a little young, but just went back downstairs and played some more video games. But that was a great day.
Now, I have been
3 days old when that happened.
What's that?
I was only 3 days old when that happened. Like, seriously. I really was. It's October 15th, right?
Yeah.
So I was 3 days. Yeah.
3 days
old.
Well,
but you recognized it when I stood up and did it, nevertheless.
Yeah, Obie, what was that you just did there? I just want to see that again. I just want to see this.
Oh, that's right, him pumping his face. I thought about that one because I did see that. I remember watching that on TV, and the only reason I put the Joe Carter one ahead of it was because Carter's won. Like that was the clincher, but that was definitely like when I was going through my list, the Gibson home run was up there. Like it crossed my mind, and I was like, yeah, I would consider it like an honorable mention too. But I figured somebody else on the panel would have it too. So I'm glad it made the official list.
No, I couldn't put that on there because like I said, for me being a Mets fan, I was so distraught by 1988 that way. Let me throw one more honorable mention that I just thought about right now. Game 7, 2004 ALCS. Yankees blew the 4-game lead, Dodgers or Red Sox came back, won the series. But the reason I'm also mentioning it, because I had a coworker of mine when the Red Sox were down 3-0, he bought $150 on the Red Sox to win the series. That dude made bank because the odds were shot in hell, but he made so much money on the fact that he's like, why not? And he won. So
I had that on my honorable mention list as well. Good.
Yeah, that's my last honorable mention. This one has already been sort of alluded to. This is also a painful memory, but far, far worse. 1994, the New Jersey Devils were an upstart team. They had gone to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 1988, but that was a fluke. Now, behind goaltender, brand new Rookie of the Year, Marty Brodeur, the team came in second place overall behind the Rangers. They blew Game 6 with Messier's, prediction of winning. And then in double overtime, Matt Tell, I was a teenager. I'd never seen my team get that close, that tight, that close, especially, when they scored with less than 10 seconds left in the third period to tie the game. And I remember looking at that, and Sam Rosen, because it was on MSG, Sam Rosen, just screaming out, Matto, Matto. And my first thought was, please, for the love of God, let there be a penalty somewhere. I don't care what team, I don't care who it is. Just please do not let it end here. And it was so heart-wrenching to me as a fan to get that close with a team that I'd followed from the beginning and was called the Mickey Mouse organization by the greatest hockey player of all time, to see them get that close, and it broke my heart. Ironically enough, the winning next year is not going to be on my list, but that one there was so heart-wrenching to me, like I said, as a longtime Devils fan, that it took all the way into the 2012 season when Adam Henrique scored in overtime against the Rangers in Game 6 and sent them to the Stanley Cup Finals to erase that pain for every one of us in 1994. It took 18 years for that pain to go away.
I actually remember I watched that game. I was in a house full of Ranger fans.
Oh.
No, and to their credit, because I rooted for the Rangers in the finals, because when they won, there was and me and my friends, we trash talked all the time. They turned, they said that was a great series. Somebody, unfortunately, we're happy we won, but somebody had to lose. And I never, from that, even I grew up around tons of Ranger fans. We still break each other's chops all the time, but that was a moment where everybody knew, as happy, you were happy for them. And they were I know how much this hurts you, so I'm not going to rub it in. I was I respect that. And I appreciated it so much. My little league coach, who was a Ranger fan his whole life, actually jumped the turnstile in Game 7 at MSG. And he's I'm going to the game. I'm you got a ticket? He goes, nope, jump in the turnstile. And they were definitely over capacity over the fight. He said there were people lined up in the concourse.
I heard that.
When he left that arena, he goes, there were people they knew didn't have tickets. They were just keep a walkway in case, emergency services has to get through. But there were so many people who bum rushed MSG in the final for Game 7 that didn't have a ticket and were in the building.
Nice. So yeah, that was tough as a Devils fan right there. And that was one of my biggest heartbreaks as a teenager at that point. Well, technically, I guess it was a teenager when the Mets lost in '88, but that was a different mindset that way. So, all right, Stats, moving on to number 3.
Number 3, 1999, San Francisco, the X Games. I am a huge action sports fan, and to me, this was the moment that action sports hit the mainstream and basically became legit. Tony Hawk hitting the first 900 ever. I again watched the video this morning. It gives me goosebumps when I watch it, because he just landed a 900 again a couple weeks ago, and he's 52 or something. But you see the same intensity, the same focus this year when he just hit it back that he had in 99. I remember him going up, and he had never hit it before. He wipes out on the video on YouTube. You see him wipe out 5 times before he hits it. But they said he had wiped out another 5 times or something before that. But I'll never forget him. He gets closer and closer every time. And every time he just gets up, picks his board up, and starts walking back. And you're just this laser-focused intensity as an athlete, as an individual athlete, not a team sport thing where you're he's going to do this. He's in another place right now. He's not on this planet. He's just in the zone somewhere. And there's this iconic image of him. And I think it's Bucky Lassick is with him. At one point, he's walking back up the steps to the top of the half pipe, and he's just locked in. I'm there's probably tens of thousands of people at the X Games. He's in a world where it's just him, a half pipe, and his deck and his skateboard. And I'm and this paved the way for people like Shaun White, for Travis Pastrana. Without Tony Hawk in that 900 in 1999, the X Games doesn't become the big thing that it is now. It's died out a little bit in recent years, but Tony Hawk is not just the godfather of skateboarding, but the godfather of action sports, in my opinion. And that was the moment that truly defined him as that. And it, propelled action sports into the mainstream. So that was my number 3. And honorable mention to go with that was a couple of years later, I was at the X Games live. Jake Brown, this was in 2007 at the Staples Center in LA. If you remember this, he fell 50 feet off the mega ramp. He hit so hard, his shoes shot off in opposite directions when he hit the floor. He had come in, hit a 720, was going for a 540 off the mega wall. He came in squirrely. The deck the board shot out from underneath him, went into like the bleachers, the stands somewhere, and he just drifted out. And they said he fell almost 50 feet over 4 stories, got up and walked off. And I was like, and I remember Sal Masakela's call on the TV was, I don't know what they make of. He's like, what are they made of in Sydney, Australia? Because he got up and he walked off. And he was like, I'm good. And I'm like, oh my God, he folded up like an accordion. And I'm like, and that was another moment where you realize how intense and dangerous it is. Like what they do, it really is. And this dude just got up and walked it off like he had just fallen down off, 2 feet or something. So that was my 3 and another honorable mention.
Nice. Jared, moving on to you, sir. By the way, you're on mute, Hermana.
Super Bowl Titans versus Rams.
99. Okay.
Yeah, 99. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but that last drive from the Titans, first off, the Steve McNair run, set up the last play for Kevin Dyson, who fell short of the touchdown for the 1 yard line. That was probably one of the more memorable ones. But also another Super Bowl I want to talk. This probably, I guess, you could say honorable mention.
So
Super Bowl 44, Saints and Colts with a Tracy Porter interception at the end. As a fan of Peyton Manning, I mean, I don't really hate him, but I really respect him a lot. As a fan of Peyton Manning, it actually kind of hurt me to see him throw the interception at the end of the game. I know he won previously 2 years prior, but still, I want him to win another one. But then eventually he did win 1 years later. But,
not to mention
moment, you're not thinking of it.
The very gutsy onside kick to start the second half.
Exactly.
Huge moment. Huge Swift on that. Yeah. And much needed, like we talked about with Hurricane Katrina and everything with New Orleans. Sorry, Obie, you were going to say something?
No, I'm good. That's a great one. That onside kick was such a gutsy play. That onside kick is what is getting Sean Payton going to be called into the Hall of Fame as a coach someday, more than any amount of wins and what he did with the offense. That was a gutsy, well thought out, great call. And
also lucky too, because if that doesn't happen, then he looks like an idiot. But because it works, history, basically sometimes no risk to no reward. But that was huge. Yeah. All right. Mr. Obes.
So Obie's at 3 now, right?
I am at 3 with everybody else.
Yeah, we're on to you, sir.
May 7th, 1995. Reggie Miller, 9 points in 9 seconds. I've never liked the Knicks. And growing up in North Jersey, that was not, the way. It was the Knicks because the Nets were horrific. And I wasn't a big basketball fan yet. But I never liked the Knicks. And I was at this dude's house and I gave the choke sign before Miller gave the choke sign. And it was the moment where I said, this sport is something. It really was the point where I was like, things happen in this sport. Guys do things in this sport that you just can't believe they're doing. It was unbelievable to watch one guy, for 9 seconds, that's all it took for one guy to change an entire series, an entire game, become a legend in the sport. He was definitely a great player. Ended all dreams. Who knew that was it? Ended Patrick Ewing's dreams for good, other than John Stark never hitting the 3. But it was a great moment. I don't think I'm friends with the guy who was hosting that party because of the way I reacted to that game, and that's okay. That is okay.
All right. Rounding out number 3 for me, it's already been alluded to, but I'm going to throw a little bit of a different spin on it. 2000, Devils' second Stanley Cup. Now, Rob, you've already covered a fair amount with this anyway. The Eliash no-look pass over to Jason Arnott, scores in double overtime. But one thing that was not mentioned that I want to bring up on there is longtime Devils radio guy, Mike Miller, who is absolutely, basically, he had to retire due to throat cancer, which he eventually recovered from. But his line when they beat the Dallas Stars and the Stanley Cup has fallen from the Stars was one of the best underrated lines in radio broadcast history, because this was a guy who was just a pure impassioned fan. He lived with that team. He suffered from for so long with the pain of that team. To see them get that Stanley Cup again, and this time in 6 years, to show the first one was not a fluke, to come back in the Eastern Conference Finals being down 3-1. Their head coach originally was Robbie Ftorek, who was fired 8 games left in the regular season and taken over by Larry Robinson. Larry Robinson being able to take that team all the way through, kicking a garbage can after their game 4 loss, just losing his mind, very, very soft, mellow, easy going guy, just trashing the locker room in a fit of rage in front of all his players was a wake-up call. And they went straight through, and they went 7-2 after that. Game 7, when Lindros was skating with his head down in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Scott Stevens laid into him. Now it would have been a penalty, but it was 100% legal because you don't skate with your head down. He went into the hospital for that, and Lindros was never the same after that. Sikora, like you mentioned, was in the hospital himself, and eventually got the chance to hoist the cup, I think, or 20 years later was honored in the 2020 20-year anniversary. Sikora was finally able to be recognized for that. But to see that a second time, I saw game 5 with a buddy of mine, and went triple overtime. They lost. I was only able to see game 6 on my own, but to watch that happen a second time for my team, even though granted it was on the road, I want to give a lot of props though to Dallas fans, because they had a world of respect for the fact that basically they lost with grace and they lost with honor. And I really, really respected the fact that they did that, because a lot of fans would not have done that. They won the year prior. They were disappointed this year, but they showed a lot of respect to Joyzy's team. And I always found that really, really commendable and a lot of integrity there. So my number 3, Devils round 2, not even round 3. All right.
Yeah, I like the Larry Robinsons, because Fatorik got fired after he threw like a tantrum in Detroit. He threw because Detroit had these old benches that weren't attached to the ground. He picked the bench up and threw it on the ice, and Lamoriello was like, all right, I've seen enough of this clown. And then Larry Robinson just absolutely destroying a garbage can and like it was like the wake-up call they needed. Because also, remember, they won in 95. And then they missed the playoffs the next year. So everyone's like, you're a fluke, you're this. And we would win we'd be like the best team in the regular season and then lose in the first round of the playoffs. And then Larry Robinson came in and got the ship right. And it was like, okay, we're not a fluke. Like, we figured out what we're supposed to do.
And then the year later, they went to game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, but lost then.
Yeah.
But won 2 years after that, too. So, yeah, Larry Robinson was big on that. Robbie Fatorik was in the stands, though, because he bought tickets. He watched his team from the stands, which I also found a little bit commendable that way. So, as always, this show can be heard on SSW, on the Spanglish Sports World. It is on Daily Motion, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, some Russian platforms. I don't even know what they are, but in Spain and Latin America, Australia, and also many other places around the world, which, by the way, I found out earlier today. I'll get you guys caught up on that one a little bit later. But yeah, we're expanding very, very nicely, I should point out. Find us always on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and Spanglish Sports World Sports Den on Facebook. All right, number 2, Mr. Stats, on to you.
Number 2, July 15th, 2010. Probably no one will know what this is. It was the Yankees tribute game to George Steinbrenner and Bob Shepard. Now, how I ended up at this game was interesting, too. I had tickets. My mom had gotten tickets through her job. We were supposed to go to a game like 2 or 3 weeks earlier because this was the first game back after the All-Star break. One of her coworkers couldn't go to this game, so we swapped out like at the last second. And it ends up being the tribute game, so we go. They pay tribute to Steinbrenner, Bob Shepard. No PA announcements the whole game in honor of Bob Shepard. It was silent. CC Sabathia against Jamie Shields. Rays go up like 1-0, 2-0. Yankees are trailing most of the game. Nick Swisher gets up in the bottom of the 8th, hits a solo home run, ties the game up. And I've been to Yankee games before. I'd never experienced Mariano.
Mm-hmm.
So Yankees were, Teixeira walks, then the next 3 guys make out. And I'm just like, everyone's like focused on the game. I'm watching the game. I don't realize Mo had gotten up to warm up. So when Swisher hit the home run, like the energy, and this is the new Yankee Stadium, like the energy was up on like 9 or 10 right away. And it stayed there. Personally, I think Enter Sandman is like arguably the greatest rock and roll song ever. This song hits. And you could I felt the electricity surging through my body, like the energy of this entire stadium just going nuts, because you realize, I think Girardi was the manager. They were playing to win. Like, they weren't like, okay, we'll bring somebody else in, we'll hold, whatever. They brought Mo in because they were winning this game for Steinbrenner and Bob Shepard. Mo comes in, then gave up a leadoff single to BJ Upton, then picks off BJ Upton at first base, gets the next two guys out. Curtis Granderson singles in the bottom of the ninth. They bunt him over with a pinch hitter. And then Swisher gets up again because they basically batted around the order in 2 innings. Game-winning RBI single. Place is going nuts. Swisher gets like the cream, the shaving cream on the towel. But as you're I just remember like you were talking about the ALCS game when Boone hit the home run and Jeter told him beforehand, don't worry, the ghosts are going to come out. You're in that moment and you're like, the ghosts are here. Like the ghosts of Yankee Stadium are here in the new Yankee Stadium, because it was one of those moments, the energy, the electricity. And as I'm walking out, they have the tribute on the board to Steinbrenner and Bob Shepard. I remember getting like little teary-eyed. And I'm not even like a big Yankee fan, but I'm like, this is a moment I'll never forget. Like this was kind of like maybe the next best thing to winning a World Series was experiencing this moment. So that's my number 2. And
Nice.
Honorable mention, Derek Jeter's last at bat.
Yes.
In Yankee Stadium. Michael Kay had one of the greatest calls of all time. He's like, the script is in Derek's hands.
Mm-hmm.
First pitch, RBI single, and a great ending to his career in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. And then he singled in his last at bat too.
And at Fenway Park against the Red Sox.
And they gave him love too.
Yep.
You know, they gave him a lot of love there. So, okay, Jared, sir.
I don't know if it's a particular game. I guess you want to say it's a particular series. I want to go back to the 2018 NCAA tournament with Loyola Chicago and their Final Four run, pretty much. I'm not going to just go one particular game, but no one ever suspected a team like that to make it, especially when they have an older lady named Sister Jean. She's still alive, supporting them from game to game, and she still actually supports them to this day. And last time they made it that far, I think it was like 1966 or 1968. So that was probably one of the more memorable ones. And also, that's I don't think it was that same tournament, but maybe it was. UMBC beat in Virginia, first round. I don't know. I don't remember if it was exactly that one or the year before, but that was also one of the memorable games because they were definitely the underdog. Everyone thought Virginia. No, it's the next year. Everyone thought Virginia was the favorite to win, and then they got killed by like 20-something points.
Yeah.
And that span of like a couple of years too, because I think in that same like 2 or 3 year span, we had the Villanova buzzer beater to win the national championship. Mm-hmm. So that was like a great. I mean, obviously we didn't have the tournament last year. It'd be nice to get it back this year. But there was a nice, like you said, there's a couple of years in a row we had great March Madness memories of like things you'll never forget. You may only see once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Obie.
So my number 2 event is pretty much the exact opposite of Rob's number 3 event.
Which, by the way, you said none of us had seen, by the way. I think you alluded to her.
I know. I saw, yes. This event, which I saw with these 2 eyes on television, never happened. And you'll understand why when I tell you what it is. July 20th, 2006, Tour de France Stage 17, Floyd Landis. Now, I am a huge road riding fan. I watch the Tour. Plus, I'll even watch the España, and the Vuelta de España, and the Giro d'Italia. I love road racing, and especially the big tours. And this was the year after Lance had retired, and I do have an honorable mention to 2001 Lance Armstrong, The Look. You can just Google that, and you can check it out on YouTube. It's worth it, even though that didn't happen either. But Floyd Landis was down by about 8 minutes heading into this stage 17 in bicycle stage racing. You're out of it. That's it. You're done. If you are a good rider, there is no way you're making up that kind of time. 5 hills on this rock. First hill he hits, he takes off with the breakaway. And the announcers are just like, they're not going to let him stay away. They're not going to let him stay. I'm watching. No one's going to let him stay away because a group of riders can catch a small group. That's just how the sport works. And this guy, hill after hill, climb after climb, holds off the field for gains back 8 minutes, is 12 seconds behind. There's a time trial coming up. He's the favorite in the time trial. And as a fan of biking, I'm like, yes, American cycling is still alive. This sport's going to take that next step. I'm going to be able to bring other people on board. They're going to love it. He goes on, he wins the Tour. He does the night show parade. Boy, I am fired up. Probably about the way Rob felt about that 900. The difference is about 3-4 months later, he gets popped for PEDs, and that is the end of American cycling for quite some time. For those of us who follow, we do know there's a kid, Sepp Kuss, who's riding now, who might someday get to be a Grand Tour leader. But the excitement on that day with the people who, like me and my father, talk, oh yes, we're still in this sport. This is going to take that next step. People are not going to laugh at us when we ride with our tighties on. Nope.
The one thing that's weird about the whole Lance Armstrong thing from a left field perspective is his cameo in the movie Dodgeball kind of is a little bit tarnished at this point, because that whole pep talk about, I had cancer and everything like that, still came back. But you know what? You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say this, as someone who read the full report, you read the report on Lance Armstrong, and the two things you realize is, yes, he was a choose your favorite cuss word for the way he treated his teammates.
Poop head.
But B, every other team's leader was doing this thing. Like, they couldn't, the 7 tours he won, there's no winner of, because everyone who came in second also got popped. Everyone who came in third also got popped. So they're just like, forget it. These events never happened. My wife made me stop watching the tour for a few years until a winner held out. She's like, you're not watching this thing. That doesn't happen. So I'm back watching it again. So
all right.
We talked about that in at sports ethics class for my master's degree, and it basically said, like, that was the thing. Like, Lance Armstrong got crucified for it, but they're like, everyone was doing it. Like, it was like, was it really cheating? Like, it's really, like, everyone was doing it. So it wasn't like anybody had an advantage over anybody else. Like, they were all doing it.
Like steroids in baseball.
Yeah.
More than steroids in baseball. I mean, steroids in baseball compared to PEDs and bike racing, you could almost call cheating, although I am for the everyone in baseball who was good was doing it philosophy.
We may have to have a conversation about this one at some point too, because we really haven't, yay, nay, et cetera, et cetera. But
Okay.
I think I got a couple ideas on that one. All right.
Right.
Now, I'm going to give you guys a hint, see if you let me take a guess on it. Giants Super Bowl. Which one?
90.
Nope.
Oh, the helmet catch?
Nope.
86?
Wide right?
Nope.
Oh, no, it was 90. 90 was wide right.
Nope. Got one left.
It had to be the last one then. Eli's second one. Okay.
It was not the one from 2008. It was not Super Bowl 42. Part of my experience when it comes to sports is the environment that I'm watching it with. Now, Rob, Obie, you've talked about you were at parties and things like that where you were in the environment, you have this certain energy that's there. When they went to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 42 and they won 17-14 and ended the Patriots' perfect season, I was at a Super Bowl party where, no joke, half the people there were saying, I thought the Giants were the blue team. They were sitting there complaining about the commercial, and by the end of the game, we're not even watching it. Meanwhile, one town over, all these dudes that I grew up with, all these guys that I'd known from elementary school, from church, some of them I got kicked out of the Methodist church with, which, Obie, we'll talk about that story and basically the people there. We know those people. They were one town over watching this game. I couldn't be there for that. So in 2012, when they had the rematch against New England, I finally got my chance. I was with these guys, I was in the environment with guys who understood why it's a bad idea to run the ball at a 3rd and 14 off tackle. People that understood the sport and what it is about it. That's what I wanted for so long with a lot of the Super Bowl events and Giant Super Bowls that I, for so many years. So to finally get that one, have the Manningham catch, have the Ahmad Bradshaw touchdown, fall down, whatever you want to call it, and have them win was so sweet in so many ways to me from an emotional, personal standpoint, because I had never had that with a Giants Super Bowl win before. That even though I got out of that Super Bowl party at midnight, got back to my house at 1, was up at 4 a.m. to bring my car to set for some Anthony Hopkins, Ewan McGregor thing that nobody remembers at this point. Stats, you might not even remember this one, I had to be there at 6 a.m. for this thing at winter exteriors with rain. I didn't care. Nobody on set cared because we were just so fired up about the fact that the Giants had won the Super Bowl again, beaten New England again, and Eli got the MVP again. And it was just the perfect party environment that, like I said, for the entire time I was looking for that. So that one right there is my number 2.
My number 1 is just so personal, but it was live in person, March 26, 1992. Martin Brodor's NHL debut with the Devils. He was 19 years old. had gotten tickets. My uncle took me. I sat 6 rows off the ice behind Brodeur for 2 periods and watched this young kid who nobody knew. He had a porn stash at the time. They won 4-2, I think. But it was years later that I realized I had been there, and he was my favorite hockey player of all time to this day. I realized it years later because it came up, and I was like, remember telling my uncle, I go, we went to a game when a rookie goalie played. And we looked up the box score, and what I remembered was the guy we had named Troy Millette, who was like our enforcer, got ejected for having this awesome fight. Like somebody got cheap shotted, and he came out of like off the bench the next shift and just started throwing hands, came out of the penalty box when his penalty was up, throwing hands. And I'm like, and we looked at the box score, and sure enough, and that was Brodeur's first of what would become a record NHL career win. So that's my number one personal, like live in person with my favorite hockey player of all time.
He was, I think his player number was 22 then too. Wasn't
29. Because that's how it also started. It was like, I think it was a trivia question, was like, what other number did he wear? And I'm like, wait, we were at that game. And I was like, what? Because I remember the kid wearing 29, like goalie wearing a 20 something number. And sure enough, it was Brodeur.
And I think Gary Thorne did the play-by-play for that too.
Might have been, yeah, because Gary Thorne did the play-by-play. I remember him calling the 2001.
Doc Emmerich and Gary Thorne for like 25 years. How good of combination? It's like you replace an A with an A. Okay, nice. So, and then he ended his career in St. Louis, which was really kind of sad.
I was booking when he was going if he got close to 700. I was on flights. Like I was looking at flights to wherever the Blues were playing. Fair. I was like, I would, because I was like, how awesome would it have been to have been there for 1 and 700? Because I was even going to make a sign that says I was there for 1 and here for 700.
Nice. All right. So we got about 8 minutes left. So we're going to have to wrap this up a little bit. Jared, your number one.
My number one is 2016 World Series, Cubs and Indians.
Fair.
Game 7. When I was panicking for my life that Aroldis Chapman was going to give up the game. Because I really wanted the Cubs to win as a Yankee fan. And I was like, it's about time that they won. Because, they like that little team. They like that team that always gets there, but never really wins. I mean, they have won, but, they've been there more times than they ever won. So that game was definitely, had me on the edge of my seat. Looking at it, I was like, oh, Chapman, please don't blow this game. Please don't blow this game. And he did, thank God, by the skin of his teeth. But also, like 1B, I would say, is the 2019 Masters. Yeah, that's probably like, I guess you could say an honorable mention, 1B or whatever you want to consider.
The 2016 one was great because you had 2 teams that were in the midst of long-standing World Series droughts, and there was a lot of respect on both sides. It's like, okay, you're rooting for one side, but even if the other one, ends up winning, you felt okay with it because that team is finally ending a drought. But yeah, agreed. I was rooting for the Cubbies on that one too because it had been a lot longer there, and they had the whole Steve Bartman thing as well. So, Obie.
So before I go to my number one honorable mention, Scott, this is just too funny. It's 1992 Waldock Wrestling wins state section champ. It was the only match I lost at home that year. And Steve Pataki clinched it for us. So by the time my match came up,
nice.
I was like, whatever. So interesting that Steve Pataki starts and
he was our start. We were part of a little league in this case that didn't actually have nicknames. So we were just a Waldock Radiator Company.
Yeah.
And because we're that cheap that way. Steve Pataki was our star pitcher. Him and Doug Snyers too.
That's nice.
But all right, nice.
I also wrapped the show up at kind of where we start, and obviously hopefully we'll get to you, but October 26, 1986 with Bill Buckner.
All right, we're getting to that one on my side too, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the whole thing. Game 6 against the Astros. I am collecting on my newspaper route. I'm going from house to house, watching a half an inning, going to the next house, watching a half an inning. So we have to win that game because we don't want to face Mike Scott again. I did get home before the game was over. And the Bill Buckner game, the thing is, at the time, it was not the Bill Buckner game. I woke up the next day, it was the Ray Knight game.
Yep.
And for it to turn into the Bill Buckner game is such a undeserved scar on that man's name. And you mentioned last week how he did not want to talk about it. And it's not fair. Even if he gets it and he can beat Mookie to the bag, the game was tied, and the Mets were the better team.
The Mets had already scored 2 in the bottom of the 10th anyway.
Yeah, that game was tied already. So the whole 86 World Series and obviously gets described by Bill Buckner.
Yeah.
You blame the relief pitcher if you blame anybody. He's the one who
He
threw the
didn't leave
wild
the
pitch.
foul. Yeah,
Looking like
absolutely.
Mr. Magoo out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a whole
I
ESPN
think it was,
why
yeah.
you can't blame Bill.
But that was what was that
You're
was
breaking up.
mine too. In this case, what was yeah, I just got a little message saying my internet connection was unstable. Apologies. That game, yeah, was it for me because at that time I was a diehard Mets fan. You know, I was a huge Keith Hernandez fan, and I watched that game with my father.
Yeah.
On this tiny little 8-inch black and white TV because it's all we had.
Nice.
You know, one of these things, which is still which I still have. When I stepped out a minute ago, I was like, I got to go grab this thing. We watched it on this little tiny black and white TV. My father got into so much trouble with my mother because my mother, it was a Saturday night. Mom's like, he needs to go to bed. He's got to have a responsible bedtime. He's only 11 years old. And my father, who grew up a Yankee fan in the 50s with all of those teams, he understood how I felt being able to watch my team in the World Series. And he fought my mother so hard. And she was so pissed about it. But in the end, he let me watch the World Series all the way through the 10th inning, which also pissed off my mother because it didn't end like after 9 innings. But it was something to be able to watch that with my father as an 11-year-old kid, watching my team go through all the suffering and the pain of giving up 2 runs in the top of the 10th inning, and then with 2 outs, score 3. And like you said, you mentioned the Buckner part of it. I remember watching Buckner, but I remember Keith Hernandez and Ray Knight singles mostly.
Yeah.
And watching that little tiny bloop by Ray Knight, you know, I mean, but what was funny about it is all of that happened with 2 outs and mostly 2 strikes. So every single time they were 1 strike away. So as much hope as you started to get, there was so much trepidation because there was nowhere to go. Your back was as far against the wall as possible. So to see that and have to come back to that was, to me, like I said, huge. Also because it was this tiny TV set, which is great. I never saw Game 7 because it was on a Monday night. It was a school night. You know, I had probably some kind of a science thing with Mrs. Griffith. But that was a great experience, and that was easily my number 1. So unsurprising there.
Yeah. No, I did get to watch Game 7 with my father. And I remember Jesse Orozco. I see the videotapes now. I'm like, no, that glove went higher when he threw it. And my father and I jumped together on the bed. And yes, also the whole father thing. My father being a Dodger fan and hating the Yankees for life, picked on the Mets.
What was your brother up to at that point?
Didn't care.
Josh was too young. I remember Josh was too young then too.
Yeah,
Jared wasn't even born yet. Jared's like, man, you old guys talking about like
damn kids. Get something from the 90s. Maybe I'll remember that. But all right, gentlemen, that was awesome. Good run there. Finished right on time with that. Beautiful. Any other final thoughts before we close up shop?
Good list by everybody. Good.
Yeah.
Love it. So, coming up next week, we got a couple ideas. We're going to talk about this. We're going to figure this out, but I have a couple ideas of my own here. Steroids might come down the line as well. The show is available, like I said, on 35 different platforms across 4 different continents. If you're in South Korea, you're in Russia, you're in Australia, France, Europe, pretty much everywhere, Latin America as well. I think Peru now. This show is available on services all over the place. So it's kind of cool that way. Find us always on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and on Facebook at Spangler Sports World Sports Den. Spangler Sports Den. For myself, I'm Scott Churchson. Obie, Rob, Jared, you guys are awesome. Thank you as always. I appreciate it. Drop us a question if you got one. Take care. Have a great night.